Joining us now, member of the House Armed Services and Budget Committees, Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. It's great to have you on.
Always love to have you on, Seth.
Good
Thanks
to be
so much
back.
for being
Thank
with
you.
us. Why don't we start with news of the day? North Korea, the president and his new best friend, his best buddy, Kim Jong-un, are right now at loggerheads, but still trying to work towards a deal. What's your take on the North Korea summit?
Well, first of all, what we should be doing in North Korea is putting enough pressure on them to legitimately give up their nuclear weapons program, and doing that by strengthening our allies in the region. We should be talking about a Pacific NATO to help contain China and put pressure on North Korea. But the president's doing the exact opposite. He's just cozying up to Kim Jong-un at this point. You know, when I was in the Marines, I served in the 1st Marine Division under General James Mattis. And our division motto was no better friend, no worse enemy than a United States Marine. That's exactly the policy that we should have as a country. And Trump is doing the opposite. He's becoming best friends with our enemies, and he's leaving our allies out to dry.
So we're going to get some more news this morning about more Democrats possibly jumping into the race to run for president. Your name has been mentioned. You've talked about the possibility. Are you considering running in 2020?
I am. I'm seriously looking at it. You know, the first time that I really felt betrayed, abandoned by Washington, really saw the consequences of failed leadership in Washington was when I was in Iraq. And as I've traveled the country over the last 2 years, helping this amazing class of veterans get elected to Congress, I've been to a lot of Trump districts. And a lot of people in our country are feeling abandoned by Washington in the same way. Our economy is changing faster than it's ever changed before. People are losing their jobs, not to immigrants, but to robots. They're being automated out of existence, and Washington isn't doing anything to help. I don't think Washington even understands these challenges. So we can do this, we can fix this, but it's going to take a new generation of leadership. And ultimately, it's going to take someone who can not only beat Donald Trump, but can bring the country back together again when Trump is gone. And so that's why I'm taking a serious look at this race. You know, I thought the best way I could serve the country back in 2002 was to join the Marines, even in the midst of a war I disagreed with. The best way I could serve the country in 2014 was to run for Congress, and I'm going to ultimately make this decision based on whether this is the best way I can serve the country in 2020.
Now, in December, you were concerned about Nancy Pelosi being elected Speaker of the House, considered putting up a challenge. I'm curious, 3 months in, how do you think she's doing? What grade would you give her as Speaker?
I think she's doing a great job in standing up to Trump. I think that she's been fantastic we really won the shutdown fight, and we're holding the administration accountable, as you saw this week on Capitol Hill. But I'm going to continue fighting to make sure that this new generation of leaders, including the most diverse class of freshmen that we've ever had come to Congress, actually have a voice in our future. And that's why the deal we came to with term limits for the top 3 leadership positions in the House is ultimately going to allow these new voices to rise up. And that's going to be a good thing for our party, it's a good thing for our caucus, and ultimately a good thing for our country.
Steve Ratner, would like to ask you a question next. Steve, obviously you have concerns about the future of the Democratic Party and what direction it is going in now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, Seth. It feels like this primary season is as much a referendum on what the Democratic stands for as much as who we want to have be our Democratic nominee, and you have people spread across the ideological spectrum. I'd be curious, one, how you see yourself fitting into that in terms of what you would stand for. But secondly, as you know, there are 10 plus who've already announced. There are 15 coming. They've been working at this for a year or two. I don't sense that you've been doing quite as much about that. So how do you get some airtime? How do you break through? And what would your message be, and where would you fit in on the spectrum?
Well, first of all, let me just acknowledge that there are some amazing candidates who are already in this race. And I've always looked up to Senator Booker, Senator Warren, Senator Klobuchar, our friends. I was honored to campaign with Senator Brown last summer, and Mayor Pete Buttigieg out in South Bend. He invited me to speak in his city about 1.5 years ago on the future of the economy. And so ultimately, I've got to look at if I can contribute to this debate and help in our shared goal of defeating Donald Trump. And that's important to understand. There's some things that Democrats are united on. We need to get Donald Trump out of the White House, and it will take a team effort to do so with a lot of different ideas. Having that debate, having it play out with a lot of different candidates will be healthy for the party and ultimately healthy in choosing someone who can defeat the current president. But the other thing, the other thing about this race is that I think it's going to be a test for, can Democrats reach people in the middle of the country, these Obama-Trump voters, these people who are really feeling left out of our future. I spent time on the ground with candidates like Conor Lamb in Pennsylvania, Amy McGrath, who lost a close race for the House, but is now being talked about taking on Senator McConnell in the Senate. She only invited 2 Democrats to come campaign for her down there. Biden and myself. And when you go to these districts and you see people who are really feeling left out and want to know what Democrats are going to do, not just how Democrats are going to oppose Trump, but what Democrats are going to do for the future, it gives you an idea of what we need to see in leadership for a new generation.
Congressman, it's Katty Kay here in Washington. I think you're right. Beyond the issue of ideology, the overriding issue for Democratic voters is, can they beat Donald Trump? So do a role play with me. You get the nomination. You're up on a debate stage with President Trump. What's your tactic? How do you take him on in that forum that proved so difficult for so many other Republicans in order to persuade American voters that you're the one that can beat Donald Trump?
I don't think you wrestle with Donald Trump in the mud. I don't think that you try to out-Trump Trump. You try to take Trumpism to a new extreme. You've got to rise above. You've got to just sort of put the president in his place and then talk about what you're going to do for the country. I remember back when Trump talked about how this Mueller investigation is the greatest witch hunt in American political history. And my response to that is, I just tweeted, as the representative of Salem, Massachusetts, I can assert that is false. This is not the greatest witch hunt in American history. A lot of Democrats would respond to that by just flying off the handle and screaming, look at this Wikipedia entry, this is not true. I think you got to just be calm, be a leader. Taking on Donald Trump is hard. He's resonating in a lot of parts of the country, and we've got to acknowledge that as Democrats. I don't think it's a simple thing to beat him. But I was a platoon commander in Iraq. It won't be the toughest thing I've ever done.
Congressman Seth Moulton, thank you very much. Best of luck to you. Coming up, the House passed its first major piece of gun control legislation in decades yesterday. We have details on that next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.